Oh, you had mentioned one other thing about
social media.
Yeah.
I think is I think
Talk to
that's
me about
tough
that.
for relationships. It's just access to people and being able to see into other people's lives, and sometimes creates this false sense of someone has something better than you. I think can be very detrimental to a relationship that's already maybe a little rocky.
So I know we had a schedule of topics we want to talk about, but I thought today we would shift it up a little bit. Mix it up a little bit. Mix it up a little bit.
Have a little debate here.
Yeah. Well, I was not that I watch the news or I get into the celebrity hoopla, because that's just not me.
You do a little bit. I mean, you do watch Below Deck Down Under, so.
Just a secret. I only watch it with you, though. Only Down Under, because I like the Australian accent. But anyway, so I saw on the news something about, and it may or may not be true, but about Steve Harvey. There's a bunch of rumors saying that his wife was cheating on him, and again, I'm not in here to say one way or the other. I don't really care, but I actually like Steve Harvey. I like what he's about. I think he's a funny guy, and so I kind of follow him. So when I saw this come up, I thought, first of all, I was like, man, I hope it's not true. But then I thought, hey, that's something we should probably jump into and talk about, because just coming out of the conversations with divorce.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive subject,
right.
So many people experience it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the, I've got to imagine that's probably in the top 3 reasons why divorces happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I would think it'd be, finances.
Finances.
Right? I mean, they say that a lot of marriage issues are over finances, or disagreement over finances.
Yeah.
Certainly infidelity, and then I don't know where the list goes from there.
Getting complacent, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just not continuing to stoke that fire. It's definitely work, a relationship. I think people get complacent and kind of get on autopilot and find themselves in trouble really quick.
Yeah. And then not having dinner ready at 5, I imagine would be the third one.
Oh, well, then you should have divorced me a long time ago. That's one of them.
But this is it's a touchy subject, because people have hard and fast beliefs and thoughts on cheating. And maybe we should just, the waiver, I should say a waiver here. Like, I am not a proponent of infidelity or cheating.
Well, you better not be.
I'm not. But I don't know. I thought we'd just jump into it a little bit.
Well, we wanted to kind of step back and look at it from both sides and not vilify people who that's occurred in their relationship, and just kind of look at it from both sides. It's a little hard for me to be objective because I've been the one on the hurt side. So I tend to be like, black and white. It's black and white, but it's really not black and white. There's a lot more components to it that you really have to step back and take a look at.
Yeah, I think if you live long enough, and I don't know, it happens at all ages to all kinds of people.
You should have all kinds of wisdom then.
I'm just saying that, it seems like if you're in enough relationships, whether they were high school relationships all the way through to our age or later, there's a very good possibility that you've either been cheated on,
cheaty or
cheater for a host of reasons.
I don't know if that's a real term, but
yeah. Actually, I remember getting in this conversation with a friend of mine just over a beer. I don't know. I came up just casually, and I don't know. I just have some different thoughts on it, because it seems to me that I hear continually, and specifically when it comes to men, once a cheater, always a cheater. Boy, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 1,000 times, right? And it's a label, right? And I think it almost seems to permeate culture. It's like, well, that if enough people say something enough times, it becomes true, or they say it becomes true.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I used to be one of those people that felt like that. And I think there definitely are those serial cheaters or whatever you want to call them out there that's just one after another trying to find themselves or whatever they're looking for. But there's definitely, I've had some friends like on the opposite side of that, being the one that cheated. And, before I was like,
Oh, wait a minute. You being
like
cheated
female
on?
friends, no, or being the cheater.
Being the cheater.
Who are the ones that had the affair, and it kind of made me step back because these are people that I love and respect, and so it made me kind of step back and look at this subject from a different angle. And I'm not condoning it at all. I definitely think you make that commitment to someone, you owe it to them to be honest. And if you're having trouble in your relationship or lost and searching for something, you owe that to your spouse to sit down and communicate that. Now, it's not always so cut and dry, not always so easy. And I think that's where some of the problems come in. But we were listening to a guy talk about relationships, and he said something that was very poignant to me. And he said, if I can remember it correctly, I'm sure I'm not, but basically, if you have a problem in your relationship, you need to fix it within your relationship. You should not be going outside that relationship and having an affair. You need to go to your partner and tell them what's going on and what's bothering you, and if you're not happy. And I do feel like you owe that to your partner. But like you said, it's not always so cut and dry.
Yeah, it's great sage advice, but it's obvious that that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have any statistics or numbers to support, what I'm saying. It's just, I won't say circumstantial, but having enough conversations and talking to enough people, you realize that when betrayal happens, you step back and you think, okay, could have been avoided? Or could the damage been minimized? Or could things have happened in a different way? Yeah, I like that saying. If you have a problem in your relationship, you need to fix it in the relationship.
Yeah.
But then you go back, and so I don't know. And this is like touchy because I know, like I said, people have some hard and fast feelings about it, and I may get vilified here in comments. And again, I'm not condoning it because I heard somebody say one time, a long time ago, that infidelity or cheating, whatever you want to call it, is having legitimate needs, trying to meet them in an illegitimate way. So I think for the conversation, not our conversation, but the broader conversation, is you need to change the language. Like, cheater is almost like a sentence, and it just seems kind of harsh.
Yeah. But when you've been cheated on, it's
Yeah.
a hard pill to swallow. Someone that you're supposed to trust with everything, with your life, and they hurt you in that kind of way. It's a really hard pill to swallow.
It is. But so we're able to right now kind of take step back from the emotional piece of it being in it. And I'm not invalidating anybody who's going through it or been through it or will go through it, because it just sucks. It does. But if you're able to step back a little bit and say, it appears a lot of times to be what I call the victim and the villain, right? The villain and the victim. And it doesn't matter if it's the female is the villain and the male's the victim, or vice versa, or if it's two males in a relationship or two females in a relationship. It doesn't matter. But typically there's one antagonist, and then there's one that's the receiver, the victim. But and again, I think this is where society a lot of times it's just black or white. It's cut and dry. It's not always that way.
Yeah.
Like I've seen
It's
situations.
never that way, really.
Right. So you take an example for you'll take say a female. Say on the outside, outside looking in, you have a female who cheated on, say, her husband, and and so the husband, oftentimes I've seen where the one person who was cheated on becomes the victim. In other words, look what happened to me. This was unfair, this is wrong, all these things. And then the villain, the person who did the cheating, is automatically like just outcast. Like, you were wrong. That was wrong. We're going to, judge, jury, and trial, and shame on you. But if you I've seen, and I've known people that when you get into it, the person who was cheated on never showed up in the marriage. So you got two individuals, and I've seen where, one person's desperately trying to connect in the relationship. I mean, there's obviously needs that you have to meet in a relationship, right? Physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, whatever. And I've seen situations where the one person didn't show up, kept ignoring the other person's needs. And then when that person stepped out, all of a sudden, they're the ones that fall, and they never take responsibility for their part in the whole issue.
Yeah. Well, for me, when you say that, it kind of boils back to, you also have a responsibility to that partner that you made a commitment to. And I mean, yes, you do deserve to have your needs met and be in a fulfilling relationship, but you do also owe that to your partner to be honest and upfront and communicate. And I know that's hard. It's hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me and my past spouse. It is. Yeah. There's as many different situations there are for people who have been through this. There's as many different reasons why, right? And it's kind of like when going through divorce, like we said, there's three stories, three sides of the story. There's his side, her side, or there's one side, the other side, and then there's the truth. And so it just begs, to me, the need to have things unpacked. And I know that's what probably a lot of counselors, marriage counselors, spend their time doing. I've been through counseling with my former wife and, on a host of things, and it's obviously their job. A good one is to sit there and be a mirror and hopefully give you feedback to hear yourself and what you're saying and try to make some sense of it. Yeah. Because you get too close to it and you get too close to the emotions and you can't look at it objectively. Yeah. Well, and I think that's how some marriages do survive, cheating, unpacking all that and hearing the other person's side of it and kind of getting a little perspective outside of the hurt that you're feeling from it. So I think that's a really good thing, when you see a counselor and they help unpack that for you if you weren't able to unpack it yourself. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think that it maybe goes a little deeper than maybe it comes down to expectations, right? And not communicating at the outset, at the beginning of the relationship, what your expectations are of each other.
Well, I think it even goes deeper than the relationship. I think a lot of times it's the person, something is missing within their self, and it may not even necessarily be the relationship, but they're searching for something outside to fill some sort of void or hole within themselves. So are you saying that it's absent of the individual or it's absent in the relationship? I think sometimes it may not be that you're not, you kind of get what you give. And if you're not fully investing in your relationship and you're kind of withdrawn and searching for something and you're not doing that with your partner, I think some people try to look for that outside of the relationship. Almost like they're staking all their happiness on their relationship when really they need to be looking inward to themselves and find out what it is that they're missing, that they feel like they're not fulfilled.
Well, that's a great point. Yeah, I think that's really profound. You have to do that self-work because you see, so I have a really close friend that I think the world of, and this individual was in a marriage, and he lived in proximity. So he lived in proximity to her and her family, and so they were really involved. Her family was really involved in their whole life, right, with the kids. I mean, just a lot of involvement, which isn't a bad thing. But my friend definitely felt, and I saw it just being around them, that he was always kind of behind in importance to what the whole family wanted or or the kids. And there was a lot of like communicating to him covertly that he wasn't really good enough for their daughter, even though they'd been married a number of years. So all these things kind of built up, and there wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, do you think he realized that when he was in it and didn't verbalize that to his wife, or did he not realize it and it was just kind of an underlying current? You know what I'm saying?
He realized it, but I think it fell on deaf ears. And so, to your point, a lot of his needs weren't like getting met. Physical needs, needs for affirmation, needs for support, a need to be made a priority as the husband in the family. So a lot of things, and then he ended up in an emotional affair with another person outside, and when his wife found out about that, this is to my point, she became the victim. Oh my God, poor me, look what happened. Never taking responsibility or accountability for all the things that happened that she was, not only she was responsible for, but she was in control of. She could have changed.
But does that condone cheating?
No, I'm not saying that this condone. What I'm saying is,
as a result.
Is the result. So he fell in an emotional relationship with somebody else.
Which is just as painful as physical
Sometimes
affairs.
I think it could be worse.
Yeah, I actually think it is worse. Yeah.
She became the victim. Everybody rallied around her as the victim. And he shared with me later that she had actually physically cheated on him right before the marriage. And when he tried to bring that up, is talk about, look, as part of trying to unpack all the problems, she won't talk about it. She was like, that happened before the marriage. That's not what we're talking about. And so right then, it's like your legs are cut out from underneath you. Like, how do you have a real conversation, and how do you unpack and heal when there's
when you allow your cheating to kind of go under the radar, but not his? Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure that was super painful for him to be villainized like that when he was just really looking to make himself whole and happy.
Exactly. And so in a small community, and then it just kind of like snowballed, where it was almost like the scarlet letter, where you get labeled, and especially, I'm sorry, but especially as a male, no good, piece of shit, cheater, once a cheater, always a cheater kind of thing. And it was just maybe that label has a place somewhere for some people, like you talked about.
I know a few. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah. But there are some.
But yeah, it's hard to separate the pain sometimes from the whole situation.
It is, yeah. And you have those serial pieces of shit that just do that,
thrive on that. Yeah.
Whether they're just, I don't know if it's a narcissist behavior or self-centered. I don't know what it is, but there are a group of people out there that like that. But I think, and I don't want to say they're the outliers, but I don't think that's really the basis of what we're talking about today. We're talking about in the context of relationships, these things that happen more times than not, they lead to the dissolution of the relationship. And then how could they be prevented, and can they be overcome?
Yeah. And are you with the wrong person?
Well, yeah.
If you can't communicate and you can't meet each other's needs. I mean, like I said, I still go back to you need to be really honest. For me, I mean, everybody wants to be told the truth, but if you could just be honest with your partner and say, look, I'm not happy and this is why, and really have that conversation, it would alleviate so much. And it might even be issues you can work on. And I think sometimes people don't even realize until they're spiraled out of control that they've gotten this far to where cheating can occur.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, and I think for me, just this whole conversation, not with you and I, but when I say the conversation, the broad cultural conversation about infidelity, I think it needs to be had. I think many people are unwilling to have that open conversation when they might be involved on either side, because it's uncomfortable. Two, if you're the cheater, then you automatically feel like, hey, if I'm open about it, I'm just going to be crucified. And then
Yeah.
if you're the one being cheated on, and deep down you know that you could have shown up better or you should have shown up different, then you're not going to, they're not talking about it because they don't want to be, there's safety and honestly, and unfortunately there's comfort sometimes in people playing that victim role. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this because people are like, you haven't been there. Well, I have. But as you grow and expand, develop, I think the question always is not what did they do to me, or the statement shouldn't be, look at what they did to me.
How did this happen?
More so
Why?
and this is true in leadership. So what I'm about to say is the same in leadership. If you're a leader in a company, in a business or whatever, the buck stops with you. And the statement should never be, what did my team do wrong? It's like, what did I do wrong? Right? So the magnifying glass should always be turned in first.
Yeah.
And how could I have showed up differently? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
Yeah. Marriage is hard and it's a lot of work. And I think a lot of people get complacent. They get comfortable and they think they don't have to put in the work anymore. It's easy to do.
Yeah. You and I were talking about this earlier as we were not debating, but considering talking about this subject because it is kind of a hot potato. But you see this too, like again, a man and woman or two men or two women, it doesn't matter, but two people enter into a relationship. And so you're initially attracted to the other person, usually through physical characteristics and your initial personality interaction, right? So those two things are very powerful. And so you have this, and so as you're moving through this casual relationship into a more serious relationship, you're both putting on your best, showing up your best to be part of that relationship because you want it to grow and prosper. Well, that shouldn't end when the wedding cake's cut either. I like wedding cake, but so it's not okay at that point. I know it's just been said before, but it's not okay at that point for the guy to just
stop opening doors and saying the I love yous and the little moments
or watching his weight or taking care of his health, and that's mental health, that's physical health, that's everything, right? You don't just stop. Right. And the same thing with the female. And I know people, and those things have been a crucial component of dissolving their relationship. And you could say, well, those are unmet expectations. We talked earlier about the danger of unmet expectations. When I have expectations that I don't communicate to you, and then you don't meet those, and then they're unmet to me, and then I harbor a grudge against you, that's wrong.
A recipe for disaster right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But you see this. So it's like, and again, sometimes it goes to the victim and the villain. Now, I understand there's times where there's things that happen, right? There's always things that happen outside of our control, physical ailments and this and that. But you're right. It all comes back to what you're talking about is if you're communicating continually about what you need and what you want.
So important.
You're usually able to either overcome those or hope, or even better, if you're mature enough, two people are mature enough, realize, okay, these are insurmountable. We're just not, to your point, we're just not a good fit.
Yeah. And I would much rather be told that than cheated on. I think, at least. It's all painful, but that dishonesty, man, that just cuts like a knife.
So why do you, I just have a question. So why do you think, in your opinion, why do you think people don't sit down and find that voice inside of themselves to say, hey, this is something I need out of this relationship. I need in a physical, in the area of physicality, I need this. I need mental. So for me, I'll just speak for me. I have a huge need for intellectual stimulation and to meet you on an intellectual level more than just, hey, what's the weather like? I need that physical interaction. I need emotional interaction. I need that fun interaction, that sense of humor. There's a lot of components for me. and I'm not sure I could prioritize them, but they're all important. I'm fortunate that I get those all met with you, but I talk to you about them.
Yeah, you do.
So,
And I think I learned a lot through my failed marriage and through being cheated on. And, I looked at what faults I had and what led to that as well. So
was that part of your marriage? Did you guys sit down and talk about
heck no.
Yeah.
No. Deep, honest communication was non-existent.
Yeah, so you're already a recipe for disaster right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to my point, my point earlier about relations, like, did you take time after the dissolution of the marriage to get introspective and say, how could I have shown up differently?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm a better partner now, because I did a lot of reflection and looking in after I got over the madness, being mad at the external circumstances. I definitely looked inward and had a lot of growth, and I'm grateful for that.
One other point I want to talk about, because I know it's very real in a lot of people's lives. It was in my marriage. You're invested in a marriage, not just necessarily emotionally, but also time. You may have a lot of, usually everything is kind of blended, right? So you may or may not have children. Certainly children, I don't want to say complicate it, but they make the situation more complex. You've got finances together. You've invested together. So I know that there's men and women out there that are in a relationship. Could be a legally binding marriage. Could just be a solid, serious relationship. But they feel stuck. Like they don't feel like they have a choice. So they're not getting their needs met. Maybe they're trying really hard to communicate what their needs are, and they're falling on deaf ears. But for one reason or another, those needs aren't being met. They have legitimate needs, physical, emotional, whatever, and they feel stuck. So what do? Well, the choice, the right choice isn't to go get those needs met outside the relationship. Back to your point, if you got a problem in the relationship, fix it in the relationship. All I'm saying is I know a lot of people end up finding them outside of the relationship because they don't feel like they have any other choice. They don't feel like getting out of, let's say, a marriage is feasible. Maybe it's a financial hurdle. Maybe there's something with the kids. In my case, like, I didn't want to ask for the divorce because I was afraid of what it was going to do to my kids, and I was going to be separated with my kids. And so, like, I felt really stuck.
Yeah.
So I know that drives people to get legitimate needs met in the wrong way. I'm just saying what it is. I'm not saying there's a better way. So, So for those people, I don't know. The answer is, I think, finding your voice, being able to say, "Hey, it's okay," right? Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the risk might be that you may be. It may not be fixable, and you may have to walk the road of divorce.
And it's tough, but in my opinion, you owe that to your partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I find on the backside of that is you end up having a lot more self-respect. Mm-hmm. It sucks. You may feel like you've lost everything financially. You may have to go through a really dark time. But the alternative of living a lie or trying to, hide and then ultimately betraying the other person and going through that whole issue between the two of you and family. And, let's face it, you really betray yourself, because that really is a fragmentation, I think, that happens within a person that causes them to do that. Yeah.
And like we said, we're not condoning cheating, but we're also want to make it clear that they're not the villain either. It's not black and white. Before I was very black and white when it happened to me, but with reflection and people that I know that have experienced it, it's not black and white.
Yeah. I guess what I would say to anybody that's listening, obviously you tend to be if we haven't been in a relationship where we've been cheated on or have cheated on somebody, there's a pretty good chance you've got somebody close to you in your life that is going through it or been through it. And so what I would say to those people is, don't be quick to judge. Like, it's easy to want to like rattle your saber and stand with your friend, regardless of what side of the fence they're on. What side of the event that they're on. That's a bad word. Not a very good word. But like, it's easy to say, take sides and say, oh, poor you, that shouldn't happen to you. Or, hey, you're a cheater, you shouldn't have done that. Like, try to understand what the deep rationale is.
It's a lot bigger picture
yeah.
than what people know looking from the outside in.
Yes, seek to understand before being understood and before placing judgment. Always show up with compassion. And you know what? And people are going to want you to choose sides.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you don't. If you sit back and say, look, I've found more times than not, the people that are going through this, the one that's been cheated on, the one that's cheated, they're both hurting. They both don't want to go through that. They both don't want to be fragmented. Neither one of them wants to be betrayed. Betrayal sucks. Mm-hmm. But they're going through it. And so it is, to your point, you always say that it's if you can see it as a growth period, like you'll come out of it stronger, more resilient, better equipped to enter into, if you can't fix it, better to end up into, equipped to enter into a different relationship. So, and then the other thing I would say is the people that are in it right now, one who's cheating, one who's been cheated on, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some marriages that can be saved if it was, just like a one-time issue and y'all were able to work through it and fix those problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not just a matter of, a lot of people say, well, you just got to forgive. We got to forgive. Well, that's those are just words. You've got to be able to dig into it, understand what the issues are, and from that,
and deal with that fracture that's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to fully go away, and you have to live with that if you choose to continue the relationship.
Yeah. If you can dig to the root cause and understand what it is, that'll either spur compassion or a sense of being able to let go, like you said. And it's okay to say, all right, we understand why this happened. It's unfortunate that it happened. Probably not going to be insurmountable because of some deeper things that just show that we're not a good fit as two people, and let each other go in love.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of character, it takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I could survive in a relationship like that had infidelity and I knew about it. I don't know if I could forgive. And that's just me personally. I don't think I couldn't personally live with that always in the back of my mind. Is it going to happen again?
I totally agree. Getting over a sense of betrayal, the person that you're most vulnerable with, the person that you're most exposed to and raw with, and then that happens. I can't say as I'm wired that way either. Like, I know I'm not. But can I?
I guess you can't ever say unless
Right.
you're put in that position. I'm just saying, outwardly speaking, looking in, I don't think I could ever get over that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think today's conversation wasn't really so much like counsel to people who are going through it. It can be a long road. It is a long road, and it's like a wound that is still going to show a scar.
Right.
But I think our conversation today was about maybe some of the attributes of why people are cheating. Oh, you had mentioned one other thing about
social media.
Yeah.
I think is I think
Talk to
that's
me about
tough
that.
for relationships. It's just access to people and being able to see into other people's lives, and sometimes creates this false sense of someone has something better than you. I think can be very detrimental to a relationship that's already maybe a little rocky.
Yeah, we talked about this an episode or two ago about dating apps, right?
Yeah.
And so there are those
Yeah, and then some people may think
predators.
it's so much easier too to just move on and get somebody else, but you're not. In my opinion, there's not a lot of quality people out there. So yeah, there may be a bazillion people you can flip through and go out with on apps, but if you're really looking for someone special, I think it's a lot more rare.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's easier for people to dip their toe into, I don't want to say cheating, but like dip their toe into trying to get a needs met, and in a little what they may perceive as a safer environment, and certainly it's more secretive.
Right.
I mean, you ran into that in the dating side where you knew that there were people reaching out to you. They were like, "Oh, this person's absolutely in a committed relationship."
Yeah.
You know. So to the people out there that are on a dating apps, like we said before, be aware.
Be careful.
Unfortunately, those people are out there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what are the one or two things you would say in closing when it comes to your thoughts on this topic?
Well, like I said, we really shouldn't vilify anyone, but you do need to take a step back and not be so selfish and think, how would I feel if this was done to me? And be honest with your partner. If you're not happy and fulfilled, you owe that to yourself and you owe that to your partner to be honest and let them know what you need.
Yep. Seek to understand before being understood is big for me. Have a voice. Like be adamant about what you want in a relationship. It's gonna sound selfish sometimes to tell your significant other, "Hey, look, I need more sex, or I need more physical touch, or I need more of an intellectual conversation from you. Or I need more intellectual stimulation, or I need you to be more active with me, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Look, I need you to wear the same color socks."
Don't say cook.
I've gotten over
because
that
that's
one.
not happening.
I've let that one go out of my life, people.
You knew what you were getting yourself into.
Fortunately,
when
I know
you
how to
married
cook for
me.
myself. So. But I mean, as stupid as it sounds, what your needs are, what your needs are what your needs are, and don't make apologies for them.
Right.
Bring them to the other person sooner rather than later, and have conversations with them, because only then are you going to be able to really find out if there's a good match. And then there's going to be other needs that are going to present themselves as you go into this relationship. And if you're continually talking about them, then you're more on pulse with how the two of you are doing.
It helps keep that connection
Right.
with your partner. And that's ultimately what it boils down to when you lose that connection.
Yep. And like we've said before, and you said this a few weeks ago, is every relationship between two people has a life cycle. There's a season. Now that season may be a lifetime. I'm not talking about just romantic relationships, but could be friends, platonic relationships. There's a season for them. And so it's okay if you're 1, 2, 5 years into a relationship and you're growing differently and your needs aren't getting met. It's okay to say, this relationship isn't serving me now.
Yeah.
And
I would rather somebody leave me than to drag me on for years.
Yep.
And not be fully loved by them, or, in a fulfilled relationship. Nobody wants somebody to be with them just because they've made this commitment. If you're no longer happy, go. That's what I say.
Yeah, and it seems like the longer you're in the relationship, there's this perceived belief that there's less of you're less warranted to end it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a proponent of ending a relationship.
I wasn't completely happy and fulfilled, and yet I was staying in the relationship. So, I mean, like we said, when you're out of it looking in, it's a lot easier to give advice and say, I should have done this or that.
Yeah, life's short, right? So, I mean, I think selfishness is self-care. You deserve to be happy. If it's not meeting your needs, you can't overcome it. It's okay to say, I let you go, and I let this go in love, and move on. And the world may disagree with you, and they may label you, but so what? They're not the ones living your life. You are. So
I leave you in love, Mr. Sargent.
Great. Anybody know a great counselor? Just send it over. Put it in the comment section.
So I'm sure we'll unpack a little more of this maybe down the line. It'd be interesting to have some people on and get their views on it.
Yeah, I love the comments that we're getting, and this is a great conversation, because there's, like I said, there's so many people have so many different beliefs and ideas, and also have different experiences because they've been through it. And I'm not here to say that we're some wise old sages. We're just sharing from our experience. And but I do think on a broader sense it deserves a conversation. So
Yeah.
all right. Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. And if you ever cheat.